What's going on, guys? I am Jaye. Shout out to everybody that is tuning in to this particular broadcast. Now, I was trying to actually do this video, this video topic live last night. I was having all types of issues with my OBS, but I decided to just do it in video form, just to give you the gist of the conversation. It was a very good conversation. I was getting really in deep, but then the OBS started tripping. But we was talking about Rihanna, and we was talking about the fact that she said that she was okay with being a single mother. Basically, she wants to have kids, 3 or 4 to be exact, with or without the father. Now, and I spoke about it in the stream, I said, you know what, she has money, she has the resources, the capabilities to financially support them, but, you know, kids need more than just one parent. They need both, or there's going to be an imbalance there. Now, can women there have been times where there have been women to still raise kids, especially young males, to adulthood? Yeah, but that's not the case in most situations, because they're still going to grow up wanting to be a part of their father's life. But I think the mindset that we have nowadays with a lot of females is that they can do the raising themselves. Like, they don't need help. They don't need the father. Of course you're going to need the father. It's tough out here. It's tough out here when you have to deal with not only society, you have to deal with your kids as far as education, you know, how you're going to raise them, the environments you're going to raise them, the values that they're going to have, the discipline. I don't know if they're going to be able to, especially with Rihanna being, you know, traveling and probably being on the road. Maybe the quarantine is, you know, getting people to think about things like this. Maybe it takes things like this to get people to think about this. But there are a lot of women who, if they had the chance to do it all over again, they would say, you know what, I can't do this by myself. If they had the opportunity to do it all over again. Now, there are situations where you have a couple that's married and they have young ones together and they break up, and you have the mother who's raising them on her own. You do have those situations, okay? But a lot of times you have women who are dating different men and they're having, you know, relations with those men, and then they're having kids with those men. And then they break up and the kids go with them. And you also have a situation where you have women, right, who are having relations with men that nobody knows about, but they're secretly having relations with those men. And then they end up getting pregnant, and they won't tell anybody who the father is. They end up carrying the child to term, and they end up raising them. Still no father in sight. Won't tell nobody who the father is. You know, don't want nobody to know, probably because he's married to another woman, or he's in a relationship. He might be the supervisor at her job, and she don't want nobody to know that because she's embarrassed. Okay? So you do have those situations that goes on, you know, and a lot of times in our society, we have women who've gained, you know, prominence for being single mothers. I mean, look at pro athletes. Look at basketball players and football players, right? When they get drafted into the league, these networks will interview the mother. They will put the mother on a pedestal. You know, when these players are giving interviews, they're talking about the things that your mom has done for you. You know, even though she barely did anything in his upbringing, the best thing that happened to him was the fact that he was able to play sports. He was able to get out of the neighborhood. He was able to be around, you know, men who could mentor him, who can be father figures to him. That's what a lot of these athletes have. They have these father figures from coaches. The coaches become their father figures that help them grow as men. They're able to be that stand-in because the father isn't there for whatever reason. And the father's probably not there because, again, either the mother's embarrassed about who the father is, or the father just simply doesn't want to be a part of their life. But I think that most men in general want to be a part of their kid's life. But the mother will stymie that, you know, out of bitterness because the guy doesn't want to be in a relationship with them anymore. So we know that there's a lot of things that go into it, but I just think that the whole single mother mindset needs to go. Okay, it helps nobody. I think the single mother mindset is the reason why you don't have as much discipline with a lot of women when it comes to who they get with, because they're like, you know what, if I slip up and get pregnant, I can handle this situation on my own. And they can't. They're gonna struggle. But it's okay because they're only thinking, okay, with the wrong mindset. They're thinking on all pure emotion. You know, they're in love with a guy, they're obsessed with them, they're willing to, you know, sleep with them and have unprotected relations with them, which is the first sign that a woman is falling head over heels for a guy. Even, you know, especially if she knows that there's a chance that she can get pregnant, but she's doing it anyway. And what happens is once the reality set in that they're gonna be pregnant by this guy, you know, now they're angry with him because they feel like, you know, they were manipulated in some way, which they really wasn't. You know, you decided to do this. I'm not saying that all of these men who these women deal with are good guys. I'm not saying that at all. A lot of these guys they deal with, they are who these women say they are. You know? And these guys know the situation that they're in, and they deal with these women anyway. They know they don't want to be with these women. They know that they're selling these women a dream. Now, in the case of Rihanna, she was dating the guy from the Middle East for a while. There were people who thought that she would end up pregnant by him. That was never going to happen. Okay? That's not the same situation with Janet. I think that for, you know, Rihanna in that time period, I think she wasn't ready to be a mother. And even then, I think the guy was not dumb. So yeah, and you know what's funny is that a lot of her fans, her female fans or whatnot, were praising the relationship she had with this guy from the Middle East. And then what happens? She ends up breaking up with the guy and getting with A$AP Rocky. Okay. Now, it's Rihanna's choice whether she wants to engage in relationships with whoever. But if you bring, you bring kids into the world, you need to be very careful about how you raise them and the type of environments you're in. You can't have them on the road all the time with you. So somebody got to be home watching them. Who's going to be home watching them? You know, it's going to be your mother. It's going to be, you know, paid nannies. Like, you have to think about those things. At least if you have two parents, it's the responsibility of both. You can schedule it to where, you know what I'm saying, that there's a parent there. You know, we have to get out of this mindset of everybody raising, you know, our seeds except us. I think we've seen way too much of that, especially in the melanated community, which is why you have people who are the way they are now. Fatherless, motherless, they just are floating. They're just confused. They're angry. They're upset. They're bitter because they never had love. You know, their mother was too busy doing whatever, but she said she could raise them into adulthood, which we all know is bull. Most of these single mothers can't raise, especially boys into men. They can't. And then you have the girls that grew up without a father. How are they going to turn out? They're going to be just like their mother. They're going to, follow in her footsteps. But at least with the father there, she can gain that self-esteem, you know, from a man being in the house, telling her she's beautiful, telling her she doesn't have to do this or that, you know, teaching her the game, you know. And a lot of young girls don't get that. A lot of young girls don't get to learn game from their parents, you know. The mother's really not going to teach it from them. The father ain't there. So where they going to learn it from? They're going to have to learn as they grow and as they get older, which is going to make them bitter and jaded. We got too many women like that these days. This is why young males need father figures. Young males need father figures to steer them in the right direction, to show them, basically what is needed to be men in society. Maybe your father, has certain skills he can teach you that can help you, growing up to where, you don't have to go to college for 4 years. There's other things you can do as well. He could teach you how to be a businessman. He could teach you how to be a better, boyfriend or husband, if that's the route you choose to take, So fathers always needed. I don't think people should take that lightly, but fathers get devalued more and more every day. They're getting devalued, and they're getting devalued because society wants to devalue them, and they only want to hold the women up because women can be very controllable. I mean, look at what's going on with this Rona, man. I'm seeing women be more gloom and doom than the dudes. Even though there's a lot of dudes that are doom and gloom, but the women are more because they're more controlled. It's easy for them to support liberal policies and to really to support the fear-mongering networks. It's easy to hire women because they feel like women are controllable. Women aren't going to teach. They're going to do what is told to them. They're going to follow orders. And with men, that's not really the case because we have more logic and more common sense. And that is why fathers are very important. But they want to diminish the role of fathers because they want a more controlled society. They want men and women to be more controlled. And they're going to use the single mother in order to do it. Now, if you're a single mother because you were married to a guy and y'all broke up and you got full custody, that's different than a woman having, unprotected relations with 2 or 3 different guys and having kids by those guys. That's a difference. One was an unfortunate situation. The other was a string of bad decisions.